Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast or Emma's Universe podcast, should I say? That's all good. It's Friday, guys. It's Friday. So, what are we going to be talking about? Unwritten expectations, how silent agreement shape our relationships. Oh, good lordy. I don't know if it was a good topic for this Friday, but hey, let's go and dive into it. I'm curious what the universe gonna say on this one. Let's get started. Have you ever felt disappointed by someone but could not explain why, or expected support or behavior that never came because it was never actually discussed? So we're going to be cover the hidden frameworks we build our relationship on silent agreement and unspoken expectations. These contracts often originate from childhood, culture, trauma, or past relationship. We'll talk about how we silently assign roles to others and ourselves without realizing it, expecting loyalty, love, or care in specific way without even communicating it. These can create misunderstanding, resentment, and long-term emotional strain. Oh my goodness, I'm laughing because, oh, good Lord. So, how silent agreement form and why they are so powerful. And it's true because if you're looking at what we learn and we grow up, we are a sponge. As kids, we are sponge. We are absorbing and taking notes and creating habits from our outer conditions. It's also generational lineage as well that is passed down from one to the other, so the memories are there as well, but we're observing everything. So if our parents, let's say, are not communicating and setting expectation on what they want, then that becomes an issue. You're looking also at the culture because culture plays a huge role in there. You have some culture who are open to communication for genders, or like in some cases, if you're looking, females have in some countries no rights. They are just there to reproduce and that's it. So there is a culture shock as well, and not only the childhood, but the culture and the trauma we're going through. If you're children of war who have witnessed war, there is a lot of trauma. If you are a child that comes from an abusive environment, that's going to be the same thing. Also, past relationship can play a big role as well. If you're being treated very well, that's fantastic. But if you're being treated poorly, then this could play a role into your life in the next relationship as well. So that can be a factor on the top of everything. Childhood wise, if you recall the story that I shared, a teacher can break you seriously, create a trauma, or not. In my case, if you remember, and if you did not, it's in my past, what do you call it, podcast. Sorry, I'm looking at something here. I'm looking at movement via the cameras. That's awesome. So it's very interesting. It's like, okay, there is movement somewhere. So, but that's okay. Back to our podcast. It's looking at in the past, like I said, in some of my podcasts, I share that story. When I was a kid, we had a tutor, and that tutor was only tutoring poor people. Yes, it was her She was an old school teacher, like in her 40s, 50s, trust me. And it was like, oh boy. And one day I was coming over there and she told me, I thought somebody died that day. And she told me in a very solemn voice, like it was the end of the earth, she had done everything she could do for me and she could not help me. I was hopeless. Helpless, not hopeless. Well, same thing. Yeah. Yeah, both of them. Basically, I would have been going and the bin for the recycle would pass around. That would have been just fine. So basically, she gave me the doomsday. You're doomed. You're done. Okay? And in my head, I'm listening to her and I'm like, I did not give a crap. I looked at her and said, no, I'm not dumb. I know exactly what I'm going to do. And this is not going to stay where I'm at here. And I'm going to have a great life, lady. But this was in my head. The first thing that came before that was, oh, crap. I'm in doo-doo with Mommy Dearest, who's going to kill me now because you're going to tell her and she's going to be pissed off like there is no tomorrow. There's going to be a repercussion on this one. I ignored that woman. I did not give a crap about what she said because I knew deep inside of me it was a freaking lie. But how many kids have been influenced and their trajectory changed because somebody told them they were useless, they were idiots, they didn't know what to do, they were not this or that. Yes, school doesn't fit everybody. I have somebody in Big Lake. He's the one who runs the school, who came up with a program actually and decided, and instead than giving, and this is what is so interesting, instead than telling every kids they were useless, actually did something different. And the kids who cannot study or never go to university, he put them in trade school. He started to look at their skills and what they were capable to do and encourage them in that direction. He made a huge difference. And he created a program in that school in Big Lake that others state and other school have been inquiring about it and how he went about it to help those children. So there were actually no children left behind. Some are going to be great chefs. Some are going to be plumbers. Some is going to be whatever it is, construction worker. Everybody have different skill sets. So when somebody says something to you, are you in a past relationship where the person is a narcissist, somebody is violent, and you think this is love, you think this is how life should be with someone, which is not actually. And then we get out of that relationship and go to the next one, which is similar or even worse until we learn our life lessons. Those are all factors that really shape our relationship. Silence. How often have you expect somebody in your life to do something, but they don't do it, but you never said, but you're expecting it, and you get frustrated or pissed off because that person did not do it? Did you tell them before? Probably not, but you're expecting it. That is a problem. Silence is nice, but it doesn't help. You have to be communicative. The way we're communicating between men and women is a different way. Men, you negotiate things. That's what you do with men. But you have to be able to communicate. Communication is necessary for people to know what are the expectations. Because if you expect somebody to be loyal, but that person is not going to be doing it, then you got a problem. If you expect to be cared in a specific way, then you're going to have to let them know. Because you will realize very quickly if you don't say or course correct things in your life, and it could be at work as well. It's not only personal, because we talked about romantic, then that becomes a problem. It's like at the beginning of a relationship, somebody's going to come up and sweep all of off your feet and, oh my God, so romantic. And then when you're in a relationship with that person, they don't give a crap. They drop the act and that's it. And then they get pissed because all of the things they were doing for 15 minutes to attract the person doesn't work anymore. That romantic relationship is going to end very quickly and they don't know why. And you're like, well, if you play this, but you're not even making an effort to be romantic or continue to cultivate that, then the person's not going to walk away because they expect to have some loving moment. Not, oh, well, we're done. Now I'm going to just sit on a couch, watch TV, and not even bother to have a date night or anything like that. Family. Oh boy. If we do with the family, if you're expecting somebody to help you, let's say you help that person and that person's not going to help you and you get frustrated because you're always helping that person, then you maybe need to talk instead and keep it silent. Workspace dynamics, that's another thing too, because you're going to encounter with situation where you need to set the expectation because somebody is not going to reciprocate. Reciprocate? Yes, I think so. I don't know. Reciprocate what, here we go, what you're doing, then that's a problem. So you set expectation because not everybody have been taught the same thing than you have been taught. So in a workplace dynamics, you will understand you have the freeloaders and you have the givers. You need to set the balance. The emotional cost is unmet expectation. So that is a lot, because if you're craving to be in a relationship with someone, they don't bring anything up to the plate, then you're going to go somewhere else. It's very destructive. So you really have to know what is your intent at the end of the day. Maybe the intent was to be with somebody out of desperation because you don't want to be alone. Then you're going to end up with something you don't want. You have to ensure when you're entering in a relationship and it's work or it's, romantic, that, and same with family, you have to set the expectation. You have to be vocal, not every 15 minutes, but you have to be vocal and understand. They have to understand. Communication is the key. How often you become frustrated because you're expecting something to happen and it doesn't. It could be even picking up the trash, as simple than go and get the trash into the bin. How often you feel frustrated when it's full, then you end up to be the one doing it. And you're like, okay, this is not what we want. And you blew up into a big fight over trash. So you can transform your silence assumption, because these are all, the silent is assuming, into a healthy spoken agreement. Again, you need to set the foundation. Silence is not part of the foundation. It's giving the direction to what to expect. And it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street, by the way. So you will realize that in some of aspect of our lives, we have to, quote unquote, I don't like the word compromise, but you have to come into the middle with the individuals. But never never make an assumption, because I assume a few things and once in a while I say, oh, I shouldn't assume, I should have said it. But speaking your truth, not in an aggressive way, but just laying down some of the roles so everybody understand where do they go from there. I assume a lot of things that it's even funny. For people, some people, when you ask them, okay, you need to clean up everything, some you have to detail everything, even emptying the canister of the vacuum canister. Seriously, some don't even do it. Some will not even bother to clean up the crumbs from somewhere, and it's like, okay, I assume you will be doing it, but now I'm gonna have to explain everything. So silence doesn't help in a relationship. It creates a gap. At the beginning, if everybody, like I said, if somebody start to throw roses and bonbon at the beginning, you need to understand that wow factor. You better to keep it up when you're in a full relationship with somebody, because this is what they expect. This is what you portrayed or projected. And if it's not what you're doing it, then you'd better to be your own self and show who you are. And not everybody wants to show who they are the first point, because they know that maybe people are not going to like it. But you're going to have to modify. You have to change who you are if you really want to be with somebody. And when I said changing, is to be able to work in a way that you're starting to grow and evolve. That's what I'm talking about, the growth of our own self. There is great technique to foster clarity, mutual respect, and emotional freedom in all relationship. And that's something that people needs to know. You don't need to control everybody, but you need to foster the clarity. What is in the expectation? What do we expect of each other? Learn to know each other's. There is stuff that will maybe irritate you from your mate, but at least fostering the clarity, the mutual respect, and know um, who they are and respect. We have differences. It's not. I'm not gonna be sitting down and watch football on Sundays. I could care less. I would rather do something else. But if the mate like to watch the football, I let them do it. Or maybe I will watch one match with them for 5 minutes and do other things. But respect the differences as well. But we need to stop to assume, because assuming is not gonna help us. And when you realize this, and you need, excuse me, and you need to create a better communication to make it healthier, it's better. The screaming matches and the stuff like that doesn't help. Keeping it quiet, it's like building up that rage inside of us, and sooner or later that's need to get out of our system. That is not the best way. Approaching it in a non-confrontational way helps a lot. And I know sometimes we can be extremely irritated. I must say, I'm going to be honest with you, I can be irritated quickly. So sometimes it's not what we want in our life, to be irritated. But you have to understand, keeping ourselves silent, it's not going to help the relationship, because there is an assumption if you don't say anything, everything is just fine. So it's being able to work together and really respect our differences, embrace the differences, which is great, but also coming together at the middle. Like I always say to people, I will bring people in the middle. It's not you, it's not for you, it's in the middle. What can we do to work together? We are, as a unit, as a couple, we still are two different individuals, okay? So we have to learn to be flexible on what we do, on our habit. We might change and modify some of ours, but understand that our ways, maybe not the best ways, but when we merge our ways together, creating the basic foundation, it will help to continue to grow together. That's one thing. At work, we have to set expectation from people, because if you don't set the expectation, then you're gonna have some surprises. But you don't need to micromanage them, but you just setting the expectation will really help all of us to build a better team. Communication, we should always be able to have, everybody has a voice, and that voice needs to be heard. In relationships, some are pretty abusive in the sense of the other individual doesn't have the right to speak up. That is not a relationship. It's a dictatorship. We can agree to disagree. And I don't mind to agree to disagree, because this is who I am. And that's what is the best thing ever. So being able to really learn to come together, being able to build the foundation, because our foundation should not be shaky. And that's the problem when you're looking at a relationship, is that some of them are shaky from the beginning. The intent for some people, I don't want to be alone, so I'm going to compromise who I am. If you start to compromise who you are, that becomes a problem, because you basically not allowing your soul to be who you're meant to be. You need to understand that being alone is not something scary. It's just fine. It's really embracing who you truly are, and ensuring that whomever comes in your life will be the right person, because you're going to understand by being on your own, and not alone, but on your own. It's learning what you like and you don't like. Again, it's a dance. It's always going to be a dance. When we are in a relationship with someone, it's always a dance. And there is not one way, there is both ways. Some days the person will have more influence, the other one will be quieter, but in general, it should be half and half, but again, it's a balance, it's a dance. So there will be 60-40, 70-30. It all depends on the day. So be open to communication and talk. I think one of the biggest things is, yes, you can give the silent treatment to somebody, but I can guarantee if they have no idea what you're mad at, it's not going to help, because you're going to push that person away from you. Having a conversation, and just a conversation, go to, and I've done it actually in the past. It's going to a restaurant and not having a fight, but having a conversation with that person. Because I had one individual that I was dating in the past, and this individual, the first thing he said to me, and that was one of his remarks he said a few times, and I put him back, kind of back in his place, quote unquote, meaning, oh, my dog is barking, so hopefully she's not creating trouble. I'm gonna go check on her. So back to my story. Now, yeah, check the girl. She's barking over there. So the individual said to me, "You change. You are not the sweet person you were at the beginning." And I said very nicely and politely to him, well, first of all, I put my boundaries, and if I'm not liking what's going on, it's a no. That's very simple. I said, however, and I talked about his behavior. I said, this behavior right there wasn't what I was looking for or what the circumstance should have been. And not putting him or putting that person down, but just giving facts without the emotion. Because the problem is, in most relationship, you always have somebody who's more emotional than the other person. So if you speak with your emotion, that becomes a problem. But when you remove the emotions and just bring the facts, well, you were supposed to be here at 7 o'clock. You showed up at 9 o'clock p.m. We were supposed to be going to this place. You never showed up. That is something I'm not going to accept. So this is the kind of situation when you talk, you don't go, well, that was the end, and blah, blah, blah. No, you bring the facts. You said you will be here. You never showed up. Then we need to change. This needs to change. And if it doesn't change, then you gonna have, you're gonna be on your own, or life is gonna change in a way you're not gonna, it's gonna be modified in a way that is more respectful. I need you to, you said you will be taking care of, let's say, fixing something in the kitchen. I said, this is not being fixed, and we need this fixed. So when can you do this? Give me an ETA, and we'll see. You have all of the material. What do you need? What do you need to get it done? So this is a kind of conversation. Or if something is broken, it has not been fixed. It has been not fixed for the past 3 months. I'm not doing it. I need your help to do it. So this is the kind of things that when you talk with facts and remove the emotion, it will help. Excuse me. And this is something that we need to be able to communicate. Now, again, communication is something that sometimes is quite difficult when we, when it's building up, you building it inside of you. You build that anger, and that anger becomes like that background noise, and it's becoming louder and louder. That doesn't help, because generally when people explode into anger and rage, this is where you realize, holy crap, it was just these things that needed to be fixed, but you're building it up, building it up, building it up. So you have to learn to communicate and clarify what you see, because again, the other person's going to say, I don't have a crystal ball. I am not going to spend my time to try to guess what you need. You have to tell me. When you build that communication and that flow, it will help more than you ever think it does. And people will say, well, but I tell him 200 times I do this and that. Well, then you put a big sign. If somebody doesn't put their socks into the basket, or you move the basket, or you put a huge sign, mindfulness will come along. But the communication is so important. And it's not only in the personal level, but at the level at work as well. Because a lot of people can build up frustration if somebody never brings, let's say, its treats for the week, and one person never does. Well, maybe it would be good to have a conversation and say, hey, by the way, you're bringing the treats next week. You have not brought any treats for the past month. You're in charge of that. So you put them accountable for it. It's not to put them on the spot, but it's to be able to have an equal fair share. And this is the same thing with everything in life. You have to speak up. You have to be able to communicate. And if you don't know, then you start messy in your communication and you will become better and better and better at it. But silence is not your friend, quote unquote. Only with my uncle, actually, Tonton Francois. We used to sit down and we didn't have to communicate because our soul were communicating on its own. I love those silence. Those were the great silence ever. Sit down somewhere and appreciate to be in a moment present. But when you have a situation that could become more frustrating, then it is time to communicate, because I can guarantee the other person will have no clue. I can guarantee that, of what's going on in your head. You have to communicate. And I know it's difficult sometimes based on where you are and what has been going on in your life, that it could be difficult to do it. But if you think about it, if you think about it, take an example where things were quiet and it didn't went the way you wanted, but think about a time where you speak up and everything worked out. Think about it. So we have to learn, and I learned that way a long time ago, actually. If you don't ask for it, if you don't do it, if you don't ask for it, nobody's gonna do it for you. And I learned to do this. And sometimes it's difficult where, the way we get brought up, the way the circumstance made of who we are, that we are faced with to do this. Sometimes it's extremely uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, it's super rewarding when you realize I just have to communicate. I'm communicating and we got something going. So there is no guessing or assumption of somebody doing anything. And again, I got example here where I'm at, where, well, it's common sense to me. When you use the vacuum, you empty the canister. Not for everybody, but those are my assumption that, people don't actually, Emma. It's not it's common sense to me because this is the way I've been brought up and who I am. But not everybody will realize, oh, I have to empty the canister? Yeah, so you have to spell it black and white, what they're supposed to do, and they're supposed to follow through the letter. So that is something I wanted to bring up today, because silence doesn't help in some matters. And for people who do silent treatment, well, if the person doesn't have a clue, and most of the time guys are oblivious of it, they have no understanding, then it doesn't help. It becomes a cycle, and the only thing you do is creating a wedge. And communication, even if you have to repeat, like I said, if you have to repeat yourself 25 times, just put them, type it, print it, something big on the letters. People will read it, but you have to communicate. Silent is not helping. Silent treatment doesn't resolve. Communication does, and remove that emotional part of it. Again, facts, like I did with this individual. It was facts after facts after facts. And he looked at me and he looked, oh. And I'm like, yeah, that's a problem, isn't it? I said, it's on you. You do whatever you want. But I am not accepting this. I have my boundaries. Respect those boundaries. And if they don't, then bye-bye. But communication, when you are in a relationship, this is what it's all about. And the problem that I see in a relationship is people grow apart because they don't communicate anymore. And that's a problem. They don't connect. And you're supposed to be connecting. It doesn't mean you need to be 24/7 in their faces, but doing activities together. Maybe the one you don't like, and maybe the one you like, then he's going to do it or she's going to be doing it as well. So it's a it's a give and take as well. This is what it is. It's a dance. But don't expect with your silence that they will use what we call common sense and do things that you expect they're going to be doing when they don't know they're supposed to be doing. Nope. You need to let it out and just put it on the table like everything else. That's called communication. So, okay, guys, we are, oh my goodness, we're like at 30 minutes from it. Wow. I'm impressed for a Friday. Generally, I try to keep it to 20 minutes, but I went up to 30 minutes right now. Yeah, I did, Makakuye. I did. So have a beautiful weekend, guys. And think about two experiences. One, you kept silent, expecting something to happen that didn't happen. And the other one, where you communicated and this happened and it turned even better. Think about it. And which way do you like to feel? Do you want to be angry and frustrated, or happy and ecstatic that everything is working great? I can guarantee I take option number 2. So have a beautiful weekend and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.